Okay, welcome to machine learning for data science. Um, Let me check if okay. So this is a course that require basic statistics knowledge and also database and also programming languages. So if you have not taken that one, it's okay. Especially those who join the session without any programming background, but you can have an overview what the course is like. Okay, so this is KD 34403, machine learning for data science. The first lecture. In the first lecture, I will cover an overview of what is machine learning and also about the course. Okay. So a little bit about me. Um, I get my early education in degree from Polytechnic University of Brooklyn. I study computer science, and then right after my degree, I got a scholarship also, continuing my study at Western Michigan University, Kalamazoo, Michigan. Many Sabahan there, many Malaysian there in 1997, and then I completed my PhD in computer science, specialized in knowledge discovery and machine learning at University of York, okay, UK. And for the some of the work that we have done together with students is that we innovate solution for a few problems. So these are some of the innovation award that we get. Um, 8 gold and 4 silver. And the gold we get from Korea, from Canada, and Germany, and many more. And for the silver, we get from Germany also, and then from Korea, and so on. So me and my student have published over 150 journals, book chapter related to machine learning. And at the moment, I have supervised 8 PhD and 12 master students into completion, means they finish already. Lah. So some of your lecturer like Dr. Samri, Dr. Florence, Dr. Jane, they are my student. They were my student, lah, PhD student. And at the moment, I have 4 active PhD students and 3 master candidates. Okay, so that's all about me. Um, I've been with UMS since 1999, so 23 years already. So looking for retirement, 8 more years. Okay. So for the course, for this course, the course learning outcome, first you should be able to explain the concept and technique in machine learning. So um, at least you know the basic concept, what is machine learning, and then what are the technique available in machine learning. So you should be able to demonstrate knowledge and understanding. Okay. And the second one is in this course also, you will be learning how to do some practical. You will be performing classification, clustering, and regression. Okay. I know you have taken data mining kan under Dr. Florence kan. So you should be able to catch up this course very, very fast. Um, it is similar, but we will do a lot more practical um, on how we can apply this machine learning lah. Okay. And the third one is we assume at the end of the course you should be able to apply the models and then how to evaluate the performance of each model. So we expect you to be able to explain the models and evaluation methodology of machine learning. Okay, so this is just to show that you able to utilize relevant technique and demonstrate analytical and critical thinking skills. Okay, so all this will be measured, and what we will cover some of the basic concept based on the category like clustering, deep learning model. I believe you didn't study a lot deep learning, kan? Neural network, or only a bit only. Did you cover in data mining the deep learning? No. Yes. And we also will be covering three rules: linear model, distance-based, probabilistic models, features, model assembles, and how do we set up the machine learning experiment. Okay? You can ask me if you have something to ask just by typing at the chat box lah. Okay, how you will be accessed? Your assignment or your tutorial session will be 20%. Okay. Your practical involve all the lab lah. So basically in the lab you just follow the step by step on how to perform the practical. I will give you a small assignment lah. And also we will have quizzes online, midterm online. So the quizzes 10%, midterm 20%. Okay. So but based on this assessment, your assignment you should be getting full mark. Your practical you should be getting 10 full mark. Your quizzes, let's say you get 7 or 8% lah. Similar to midterm, based on previous experience, most people will get around 15% lah. So 15 plus 7 plus 10 plus 20, you should be able to get a standing of B. Okay, and your final exam will be 40%. Okay, so any question? If you okay, can you type number 1 in the chat?
Doktor, ada berapa total assignment, Doktor?
Zulfadli, I didn't hear you.
Total ada berapa assignment?
Assignment lebih kurang 10 lah. Practical pun ada lebih, practical pun lebih kurang 10 lah. Quizzes, because in the first 3 weeks we will not be having any quizzes or assignment, so the quizzes around 5 or 6 lah. Your midterm only one time only, so we will have the midterm in week 7. Okay, and your final exam during the exam week lah. Okay, so there are no group assignment. This is more on individual assignment. You can work together. You can copy the answer, but you have to understand why the answer is like that. Okay, okay, so make sure you understand the basic concept on how to solve all the assignment. You can compare your answer with your friend. You can argue, you can discuss. Um, that's the best thing lah. Since we all not stay in one place, so it is difficult to have a group of friends and then work together. But we make use of WhatsApp lah. Kan? Okay. So any other question? No. Okay. Let me give you some overview of what is machine learning. Okay. Since most of you have taken data mining, so that's good, very, very good, because you don't have to struggle to understand what I'm trying to cover in this course. Okay, so machine learning is used to analyze data. So especially in this new era, we have big data. So what is big data? Big data can be defined or described based on the four V. Okay, the first one is the volume, scale of data, how much data we have every day. Okay, and then the second one is velocity, live data coming from sensor, coming from network connection, and so on. So, and then the third one is variety, the type of data that we have, like video, images, text, numbers, and many more. Okay, so that's covering variety, different form of data. And the fourth one is veracity. This is related to uncertainty of data, in which um, at this moment the data is relevant, but by tomorrow the data is not that relevant for decision making. Okay, so um, in short, big data can be described based on the volume, the velocity, the variety, and veracity. If you Google in um, internet, they have a few versions. They have like 5V, 6V, and so on. But the most critical one is the volume, velocity, and variety. These two. Okay. So these are the four V of big data. Why do we have big data? Because we have the device to input all the data, especially when we have social media. We always update our status. We always comment. We also upload our photos and so on. So all these activities, we contribute to the collection of big data on the internet. And at the same time, also we have powerful PC. We have high-speed wireless communication. Not high speed lah, compared to other country, but acceptable. So that's why we are both considered as producer and consumer of data. We produce the data by typing or inserting data into the internet, and then consumer means we are reading. We are getting the data, we are googling the data, and so on. Okay. In most cases, the data is not random. It has structure. For example, when we collect the customer behavior, we have certain features that we are collecting. This is what we call re- relational database. You have taken database also. We could also have unstructured data, in which there is no predefined structure. For example, we have news, we have email, we have what else? Everything that in term of text structure that do not have table, that is what we call unstructured. Okay. So For that reason, we need big theory or a mechanism to extract that structure from data. We need to have tools that we can extract knowledge from this data. The raw data that we have may be too big that make us unable to extract the knowledge or the hidden information. So we need these tools to extract them. But before we can use the tools, we have to understand what are the processes involved in machine learning. So that's why you need to take this machine learning. And we use these tools to predict or to organize our data. Okay. So why learn? Why learn? Why they call it machine learning? Any idea? Okay. So based on the previous slide, given that we have raw data, large amount of raw data, what we wanted to do is we want to extract frequent pattern or hidden knowledge um, that we have in our raw data. Since we have limited capability in trying to analyze large amount of data, so we can program a program or we can design or implement a program that will assist us to extract the frequent pattern and learn from the data. So that's why we call it machine learning, in which we program a program that can learn something from the data, can learn pattern from the data. So that's why we call it machine learning. We program the machine to learn pattern from the data. Okay? Um, for simple activity like calculate payroll, we don't need machine learning because calculate payroll, you just sum up the volume. Okay? But we need learning when we do not have human expertise, when human are unable to explain their expertise because we want to mimic the human intelligence. And we also use machine learning when solution changes in time. So this one is more on routing on the computer network. We also use learning when solution need to be adapted to a particular cases. So this one is depending on the domain of the data that we want to learn. Okay. So what we talk about when we talk about learning. So like I mentioned just now, machine learning is actually a process in which we design a program and then the program will learn a pattern from the data. So basically, when we talk about learning, learning general models from a data of particular example. So given a set of data, we want to learn the general model or the general pattern that we have from the data. Basically, we do or perform modeling. We call it modeling because we want to model the pattern that we have inside the data. Since we have a lot of data, data is cheap and abundant. So we need to be able to use this machine learning and then extract the knowledge from them. So for example, for customer transaction to consumer behavior, if we have market basket analysis in which we're trying to analyze the consumer behavior. For example, people who bought Blink also bought Outlier. So this is based on the customer transaction that we have from Amazon.com. Okay? So when we talk about learning, basically we want to build a model that is a good and useful approximation to the data. The model that we have is good enough to describe our data. Okay, so that's what we meant by learning. So you have taken data mining, so you have studied market basket analysis. You also have performed credit scoring, maybe lah. Um, in manufacturing, you can apply data mining. In control, robotic troubleshooting. In medicine, you can perform medical diagnosis based on the lab result or the demography of the patient. In telecommunication, we can look at the spam filter, intrusion detection, and then bioinformatics, we look at the DNA, the motif, alignment, and then web mining, we look at the search engine, how do we improve the search engine. So have I don't think you have taken the information retrieval. Have you taken the information retrieval course? Not yet. No. Yes.
Ambil SEM lepas doktor.
Semua kamu sudah ambil kan?
Belum doktor. Paruh.
Separuh. Oh, yang separuh bagaimana? Ambil lain kan?
NLP.
Oh, Natural Language Processing and Dr. James kan? Eh, dok,
Bukan, dengan Dr. Suraya.
oh Dr. Suraya. Okay. Okay. So, what is machine learning? Basically, if I rephrase again, the, what is machine learning? We are trying to optimize a performance criterion using example. So basically, we are trying to optimize the performance of the program based on certain benchmark based on the data that we have. So for example, if we have a data related to cancer, so how do we optimize the model by tuning the parameter that we have for that particular model in order to predict or in order to classify the data lah. So, so basically in machine learning, we are trying to optimize the performance of the program. And in most cases, we are using formula coming from statistics. So we used statistics in order to infer certain rule or certain condition from the sample data that we have. Okay. So since all of us coming from the computer science background, so our concern will be how do we implement or design an efficient algorithm to solve the optimization problem. But in this course, I think all of you will only dealing with how do we apply the method in order to um, optimize the performance. Okay, and of course you will be dealing also what are the parameter that you can change in order to optimize the solution. Okay. Um, we also will look at efficient algorithm to represent and evaluate the model for inference, making that we should be able to evaluate and understand the performance of the model based on the output that we get from the modeling. So for clustering, you should be able to assess the quality based on the structure of the cluster. Kan? So do you still remember what are the benchmarking that we use to evaluate the cluster result? Siapa masih ingat? We look at what? We look at the compactness of the cluster and also how far they are separated from each other. So we use Davis Boolean index or sum of square. So you have studied that one, okay? And we also for like classification we looking at the accuracy or the error that we have in classifying the data that we have. Okay, for the application, we will look into association. How do we apply association rules in market basket analysis? We also look at supervised learning. Supervised learning is different from unsupervised. I hope you are able to differentiate these two based on your data mining course. So the supervised learning require label or require classes so that you can classify them or perform regression. Unsupervised learning, we do not need any guidance or any label. So what do? We perform clustering. Okay? And lastly, reinforced learning. Reinforced learning meaning that we whatever we learn now will be applied in the next session of learning. So meaning that we always upgrading our knowledge based on what we have learned. Okay. These are some of the examples that we are working on. We look at the tourism demand forecasting using machine learning method. Um, we also looking at utilizing machine learning technology in human resource management. We perform the matching profile, or we can predict skill set that required by certain group of people. We are also looking at learning how people use cities and building. We can keep track where you move based on CCTV face recognition or based on your plate number, so we know where are you moving at certain time. For city, they're looking at your car plate number. For building, they are looking at your face. So based on the CCTV, we can automatically recognize your face and then monitor your movement. We could also utilize machine learning to process and handle public inquiry or concern. So this one we can gauge the public opinion by using sentiment analysis. Okay. And last one is we can use machine learning in health and medical, in which we can do perform prediction. We can perform clustering. We can also perform classification. So these are some of the technique that can, some of the example that we can use. Okay. So I just now I mentioned that most of our um, activity is based on statistics. For example, if we have the probability of someone who buy X and also buy Y. So where X and Y are product or services. So for example, if we have someone who buy beer and at the same time also buy chips, so the probability is here is 0.7. Okay, so high probability that when people buy beer, they also buy chips. Okay, for the classification, we try to draw a line that will separate two classes. So for example, for this one, we are looking at the income and also the saving. Um, at the low here, low end here, we have high risk. So that means if you have low income and then high saving, or if you have low saving and high income, you are in the low risk, but not in the high risk. If you have high saving and high income, you have low risk. Okay, so there is a line that we can use to separate them. So this is what we call linear solution, in which we can separate them by drawing a line. Okay. Okay. Some other application for classification include pattern recognition, face recognition, character recognition. Okay, this is for the different handwriting, speech recognition, d- differences in the tempo, and also medical diagnosis based on the data that we have, all the symptom, biometric recognition authentication using physical and behavioral characteristic. We can use face or signature, and then we also have outlier or novelty detection. This is to detect abnormal activity. So we are looking at the outlier. Okay, so for example, um, for face recognition, we have to divide our data into training and testing. So for the training, we could say, okay, this is the same person but with different angle. Okay, so the model will learn these images, and then when they are given, okay, once the model has been trained, so we will feed this test into the model that we have, and then we will identify this person as this one, okay, and not this. So that is the for the face recognition. So we have implemented real-time multiple faces recognition for video surveillance using a deep learning architecture. This is the innovation that we get gold award in Germany 2019, just before the uh, yeah, just before the COVID-19 lah. Okay, let me show you. This is some of the ano juga lah. Okay, so that is the one of the exhibition that we joined called Pachipta. Um, we got gold awards because we liaise with the industry. So we are working together with Cybersecurity Malaysia, and then they promote the product to the government agency. Okay, so that is one of the example. Um, we all we can also use machine learning to perform regression. For example, we are trying to find the relationship between the price and the mileage. So what happened is that we're trying to draw a line that will minimize the error between the actual and the predicted line. So this is the error that we have. So we, we wanted to draw a line that will minimize this. Okay, so the linear regression will draw the line or will estimate the line that will minimize the uh, error that we have. The uh, we call it residual. Residual is the differences between the actual and the predicted value. Okay. Um, we, we could also perform regression for angle of staring. So this one is just to predict how do we predict the trajectory of certain movement. So this is the actual one. The predicted one is this one. Okay. So what we wanted to do is we want to minimize this, minimize the error. Okay. So in order to minimize that, we need to train our model again. Okay. What can we use supervised learning for? We can perform prediction for uh, certain item. For example, we can collect data, time series data about the consumption of certain product, and then we can predict in the next 5 years how much we need in order to um, how much that we will consume in the next 5 years. So based on our 5 years back data, we can predict in the future what will be the demand of certain food that we have. Okay? We could also use supervised learning for knowledge extraction. For example, we can perform feature extraction, we can perform classification, and so on. We can also use compression in order to make our data small, okay? Or we can remove some of the column or the feature that are not relevant to the modeling tasks. Um, we can use outlier detection um, in order to perform or in order to detect abnormal activity. So this is normally used for fraud detection for credit cards and many more. Okay. Compared to unsupervised learning, we do not need any label or guidance. So what do we need, perform? We perform more or less like grouping the data based on the content or based on the characteristic of the data. Okay, so we will grouping them or we can cluster them. So this is normally used for customer segmentation. For example, they look at your purchase history and then your demographic, and then they will cluster you or group you based on your background. So people who always buy sports or um, living in certain area, they will promote certain item or combination of a few items, which is different from those who do not like sports. So easier for them to target the customer. Okay. Um, Clustering also can be used for image compression, in which you want to um, perform image segmentation, in which you want to look at certain area only. For example, we are trying to um, detect a car, so we have to identify the region of interest, where is which part of the photo is the car. Okay. In bioinformatics, we can use this one for matching, because we are looking at the distance between two items, similarity between two items, so we can learn the motif or the resemblance that we have. Okay, so like I mentioned just now, reinforced learning is that we are trying to learn based on our learned data, and then we keep continuing learning based on the previous and the learned data that we have. Okay. This is normally used in game playing, robot in a maze, multiple agent, and so on. So if you have taken intelligent agent, they use this one a lot, reinforced learning. Okay, so this is just to give you an overview of what are the machine learning algorithm that we will be covering lah, or this is the category lah. So we have the classical learning, so in which we have the supervised. Okay, the supervised we have classification and also regression. So we will be studying this one lah, like KNN, logistic regression, naive bias, decision tree, support vector machine. So all this you have learned in data mining. Regression also we will have linear regression. We have polynomial and so on. So, but we only cover linear and multi regression. Okay, so we have unsupervised. So unsupervised we have clustering. So we have k-means and so on. So we also have pattern search. So we will look at the a priori. So you have studied this one, don't worry. Market basket analysis. We also looking at the stacking, the ensemble learning, in which we combine a few classifier to become a single classifier. So we have a few methods. We have stacking, bagging, and boosting are three types. So we will look into this one also. And finally, we also look at the artificial neural network. We look at the CNN, MLP, and many more. Okay, so if we have more time, we want to cover this, but there are so many concept and technique that we have to cover. Okay, including reinforced learning. Okay, some other big company like Microsoft, they categorize them into regression, clustering, multi-class classification, and binary classification or two-class classification, and um, anomaly detection using outlier. So Microsoft divide them into five. We also have the R software. So in this course, we'll be learning more on how do we apply the R in order to perform data modeling and apply the machine learning for data modeling. So that for R we have two classification ataupun binary classification. We have multi-class, we have regression, and we have anomaly detection. So these are the four major components of machine learning. Um, some other um, grouping. They they also are grouping based on unsupervised learning, and also we have dimension reduction. This is clustering, and then we also have supervised. So this is classification, and this is supervised learning also re- regression. So this is if you are trying to predict numerical value. This is when you want to predict categorical value. Okay. So if you have label, or if you do not have label, you go to clustering. If yes, you go to either supervised learning classification or regression. Yeah. So this is another version. So we have classification, we have clustering, we have regression, and we have the dimensionality reduction. So by now you should be able to have an idea that machine learning basically we have supervised and unsupervised learning, and then the supervised learning we have classification and regression. Unsupervised learning we have clustering and dimensionality reduction. Okay, so we will cover this decision tree, instant base, clustering, regression, rule system, neural network, ensemble, deep learning, Bayesian, and maybe secret on this one lah. Okay, so banyak mau belajar loh kan? So don't worry, every session we will cover one lah. But since you have background in data mining, so you will have better understanding. Okay, so one thing that you have to look into also is the type of model that we have. We have linear. So linear meaning that we can classify our data by drawing a line, or we can use logistic regression. For the neural network, they are considered as black box solution in which we are looking at the abstract modeling. We do not know where is the line, but based on the result that we get, that is based on the estimation of weight for every connection that we have in the neural network. Um, they are they can also be classified as tree based. So we have decision tree. Uh, when we combine a few decision tree, they become random forest. And then last one is the gradient boosting, in which we combine a few solutions. Okay, a few weaker decision tree. Okay, we combine them. Okay, lastly, the challenge. The challenge at the moment is that not many people know about machine learning and data mining. So lack of awareness for top management to change direction. And I believe you are um, the future leader. So by having the knowledge, you should be able to um, direct your company or your organization to use more on machine learning in decision making. Okay, and now also we have non-integrated system, island of system, so difficult to combine them due to the privacy and also security. Lack of the support, no open data, meaning that we do not have data which are shareable. Not many company willing to share their data. We also have poor data capturing and storage, in which for certain domain too, or for certain problem, we have to be careful of what data that we need to capture. Sometimes we capturing data which are not relevant, and at the same time also we didn't capture the data which are very crucial in decision making. Okay. And lastly is lack of local expertise in data science. So in the next 2 years, we hope we have more expertise coming from you guys. Okay. So thank you. So this is an overview of the machine learning for data science. So we will cover more in detail. So I hope you have at least a basic overview of what we will be learning lah. So similar to data mining, but we will emphasize more different aspect. Okay? Um, I just want to know in data mining, did you study deep learning? No. Yes. No. Okay. So we will cover more in this course. Um, did you have any practical on data mining in your data mining course? Do you have any practical using R? Yes? No? How many? How many practical you have? You still remember? Okay. Okay. So in this course also we will perform some practical just to expose to you how do we apply R lah in order to solve some of the problem. Okay. Um, do you have any specific question that you want to ask? No. If you okay, can you type number 7?